A king stood on a battlefield. Around him, 100,000 bodies. He had won. And then, somewhere in the smoke and the silence, he heard a single woman weeping over a single man. And something in him broke open that no sword had ever touched. Buddhism does not begin with peace. It begins with the honest recognition of suffering. The ancient teaching holds that every act of violence leaves a wound not only in the body of another, but in the soul of the one who strikes. The tradition calls this the weight of karma, not as punishment, but as consequence. What we do to the world, we also do to ourselves. Ashoka had built an empire. He had not yet built a self. Centuries ago, the Mauryan king Ashoka was one of the most powerful rulers the ancient world had known. He conquered the region of Kalinga in a war so brutal that the rivers, by some accounts, ran red. He stood victorious, and then he looked, really looked, at the ash, at the orphaned children, at the grief that stretched to every horizon. Something shifted in him that day, not gradually, not philosophically, but the way a bone breaks, sudden, total, and impossible to undo. He turned toward the Buddhist path. He stopped hunting. He built hospitals, planted shade trees along roads, dug wells for travelers. The man who had commanded armies began sending emissaries of compassion across the known world. He carved his remorse and his new commitments into stone pillars, so that even after his death, the teaching would remain. 3 things live in this story worth sitting with. First, transformation is not reserved for the gentle. Ashoka was not a monk who became a king. He was a conqueror who became something harder to be, accountable. The path does not ask where you have been, it asks where you are willing to go. Second, one moment of genuine seeing can undo a lifetime of blindness. Not a lecture, not a scripture. One weeping woman. You felt something like this. A single image that rearranged everything quietly, without warning. Third, remorse, when it does not collapse into guilt, becomes the seed of Dharma. The Stoics called this the turning of the will. Buddhism calls it the arising of compassion. The Gita calls it the moment the warrior finally understands what he is fighting for. The practice is simple, though not easy. Once today, pause before an action and ask, if I could see the full consequence of this, would I still choose it? Not to paralyze yourself, just to see more clearly. Ashoka's transformation began not with a vow, but with a single, honest look. If this brought you a moment of stillness, subscribe and walk this path with us. The king who wept did not become weak. He became wide enough to hold what he had done and wise enough to do differently. That is not the end of power. That is where real power begins.